Eystein-D. Eystein was the king of Norway from 1103 to 1123. The sagas referred to him as the Peace King, putting him in stark contrast with his brother Sigurd the Crusader, who became known as the Warrior King. Eystein never once engaged in warfare, but instead focused on improving Norway's infrastructure and trade relations. Halfdan-D. Halfdan was the first Viking king of Northumbria and pretender to the throne of Dublin. Halfdan was known throughout the land for his invasions of the Anglo-Saxon coastal regions, and even managed to capture London in 871. Halfdan was slain in 877 whilst attempting to take back his Dublin throne. Scipio-D. Scipio was a Roman general who was best known for defeating Hannibal at the Battle of Zama, which is how he acquired the name Africanus. Scipio had many victories in the name of Rome and eventually would turn his attentions to Africa. While considered a tactical genius of his time, he did not get along with his peers in the Roman government and ended up retiring. He died at the age of 53 and was purported to have written, "Ungrateful fatherland, you will not have my bones," on his tomb. Morrigan-D. The Morrigan was a Celtic goddess of death and destiny, in the form of a conspiracy of ravens. Yes, the technical term for a group of ravens is in fact called a conspiracy. She would circle the battlefields and carry off the dead. Sometimes known as the Phantom Queen, the Morrigan was closely tied to death and predicting battles. At times she would tell nobility the outcomes of future battles, for a price. Zenobia-D. Zenobia was a queen of the Palmyrene Empire in Syria. Zenobia launched an invasion that led to the acquisition of most of eastern Rome and the annexation of Egypt in 270. Widely considered to be a benevolent ruler, she advocated the protection of religious minorities and kept a stable government until the Romans besieged her city and won. She would spend the rest of her life exiled in Rome. Acantha-D. A nymph from ancient Greek legends, Acantha was greatly loved by the god Apollo. Acantha, however, did not share this sentiment and scratched Apollo's face in an attempt to rebuke him. Apollo got angry with her and turned her into the spiny acanthus plant. Veleda-D. A seeress from the Germanic Bructuri tribe, Veleda predicted many of the victories early in the Batavian uprising. Veleda was highly regarded by the Germanic people not only for her ability to see the future, but in her ability to also arbitrate conflicts. After the uprising fell apart, it is unknown what happened to Veleda. Somerled-D. A Norse Gaelic lord who created the kingdom of Argyll in the Isles, Somerled heralded a Gaelic renaissance of the time. Having won many battles with the Vikings, Somerled helped to free Scotland from its invaders. Eventually, he died in 1164 during a sea invasion of mainland Scotland. While there are many myths about Somerled, a lot of people nowadays can genetically trace their lineage to him. Athelflad-D. The Lady of the Mercians, Athelflad played an important role in fighting off Viking invasions. She made it a priority to build fortifications and to fortify settlements in her kingdom. After her lands were defensible, she sent her armies to capture the lands owned by Vikings. So efficient was her conquest that many of her opponents surrendered before she could even begin fighting. Antiope-D. Antiope was an Amazon from Greek mythology who was abducted by the king of Athens. There are many different versions of what transpired next, but some say that she fell in love with the king and betrayed the Amazons, only to be slain by them when she invaded. Another version states that the Amazons attempted to rescue her from the king, but was accidentally shot in the process. And finally, in a third account, she marries the king, but when word got out that the king intended to marry another woman, Antiope threatened to kill everyone at the wedding, so the king murdered her himself. Atalanta-D. Another person from Greek mythology, Atalanta was unwanted by her father and abandoned upon a mountaintop. She was later found by a bear and raised as one of its own. Then, later in life, she was found by hunters and raised as their own. After many adventures of killing wild boar and centaurs, her birth father found her and wanted her to marry. Atalanta agreed that she would marry whoever could best her in a foot race, but any losers would be killed by her. Many young men died until one of Poseidon's grandchildren asked Aphrodite for her assistance. He was given irresistible golden apples that he'd roll in front of Atalanta when she started to get ahead. Pribina-D. A Slavic prince who was expelled from his home country, Pribina spent many years adventuring all around Europe. Eventually, he was given the responsibilities of duke, along with lands in what is now modern-day Hungary. His task then was to take Slavic people that were fleeing their country and keep them loyal to the Franks. Pribina excelled in his duties and was responsible not only for the spread of Christianity in the area, but also many of the Frank victories in the 830s. Thanks for watching and stay safe out there.